Good morning. Um, uh, I'm delighted to be joined by Pranjit. We have a couple of other people on on this webinar, but they've been detained, unfortunately, technically. But we expect them to join us any second. Um, we're running this webinar mainly just to highlight the importance of the Indian market as a prelude to the outbound travel market. Sorry, the Showcase India that we're running in February. Now, the showcase event that we're running in February really takes many forms. We're going to have a number of discussions about the Indian market in February, and we're also going to be attending the OTM Mumbai, the big workshop marketplace that takes place in Mumbai. And we also will be running a number of online marketplaces throughout that month. There'll be a sort of forum where you can meet other people online, and we'll also be running specific workshops online as well. But I'm absolutely delighted also that we have pre-prepared a webinar from our very own David Edwards on the Indian market, and I think that would make a great way to start it off. Thank you very much. So, whoever is Laurent, could you please play the webinar? Thank you.
So we'll begin by thinking about volume, value, and trip characteristics. Let's take a look at how much those from India spend on international travel. Here we're using data from the UNWTO, and the figures have been converted into billions of US dollars. It shows how much is spent on outbound travel, excluding transport fares, each year from 1995 through to the provisional figures for 2024. And we can certainly see that those in India have been spending increasing amounts on international travel. Now in 2023, India was the world's 10th most valuable source market according to UNWTO stats, and once we get the full global 2024 data, which should be fairly soon, I'm really very confident that India will have moved up at least one, if not a couple more places. What about outbound departures by Indian nationals? Well, here we're going to be using data from the Indian Ministry of Tourism, who provide a wonderful compendium of tourism statistics. The most recent folio data is, however, for 2023, but nonetheless, it gives us a really good insight into travel by those who reside in India. So this chart is looking at the top destinations that Indian nationals have travelled to in 2023. And we can see really clearly that the United Arab Emirates is way out in the lead, followed by Saudi Arabia, then the USA, Thailand, Singapore, then the United Kingdom, with the UK being the only European destination that features across this top 10. Now, with close to 28 million departures in 2023, the annual tally was twice that which it had been back in 2011, which in a sense just corresponds with those expenditure data that we looked at previously, demonstrating that as a source market, India is definitely on an upward curve for international tourism. What about visits to Europe? Well, in this instance, I'm using data published by the European Travel Commission, but it's actually based on analysis by Tourism Economics. What does it show? Well, the leftmost bar is telling us that in 2019, there were an estimated 3.9 million visits from India to Europe. Then the middle bar, that's the estimate for last year, and we can see it's about 3.6 million is the estimate. And then perhaps the big insight from this chart is just how rapidly this market is forecast by Tourism Economics to grow by 2029, by which time it is reckoned there will be about 5.3 million trips from India to Europe. And roughly 15% of outbound travel from India is destined for Europe. Because as we saw earlier, many of those travelling outbound from India are going to places across the Middle East or Asia or indeed parts of North America. Now let's drill into outbound departures from India by Indian nationals to Europe back in 2023. So we've already seen that figure up at the top for the United Kingdom because that featured in that top 10. However, what I've done here is compiled the stats for each of the other major European destinations for those from India. And we can see that it's Germany in second spot, then France, Italy, Switzerland, Netherlands, Ireland and Spain. But perhaps the key insight here is just how far ahead the United Kingdom is compared with any other destination within Europe. But it's worth saying that many of those who are travelling to certainly perhaps mainland Europe will be on a multi-country trip. So this is the country from which the Indian was departing to, but that doesn't mean to say they spent their entirety of their time in Europe just in that single country. Now let's look at the seasonality of outbound departures by Indian nationals to Western Europe. What do we see? Well, we see that Indians are travelling to Western Europe right across the year, but we can also note that it is that April to June and the July to September chunks of this pie chart that are slightly larger than those in the earlier months of the year and the back 3 months of the year. Now, May and June are particularly popular for outbound travel from India. Why? Well, because that is when most of the Indian schools are on holiday. And as we'll see as we go through this presentation, that travel by younger Indians is really very important. What can we say about the purpose of outbound departures to Western Europe by Indian nationals? Well, again, we're using the Ministry of Tourism data, and we get a good insight here that a big chunk of our pie here, 40%, is leisure, holiday and recreation. Almost as big a chunk, 39%, that's how the Ministry of Tourism referred to Indian diaspora travel, effectively what we would call VFR travel. Notice, however, on this chart that the education chunk, that's purple, 7%. All right, a relatively small chunk, but somewhat larger than we see from many markets. And it's worth noting that the EU in 2023, 5% of tertiary education students from abroad came from India, while 107,480 Indian students enrolled at UK higher education establishments in the academic year 2023-2024. What about trip duration of those travelling from India to Western Europe? Well, we can spot here that there's no information for a sizable 1/3 of the market, but for those where there is information, what we can definitely glean is that travellers from India to Western Europe tend to have quite a long length of stay, with 31% being in the grey zone of a trip that's lasting more than a month, and 17% lasting 1 to 2 weeks in the purple zone. Here I'm using data from Visit Britain because one of the questions that the Tourist Board has sponsored on the UK's International Passenger Survey has asked, well, who are you travelling with on your trip to Britain? And these are the results for those who are travelling to Britain from India. And we can see that a good proportion said that they were travelling on their own. Some of those, of course, may have been the students that we've spoken about. Spouse and partner, often travelling with a spouse and partner as a companion. But notice there's quite a few travelling with children of different age groups and also with adult family members. But what we can see from these figures, and take note of is the fact that compared with the average market for inbound tourism to Britain, at least, those visiting from India are much more likely to be travelling with children and with adult family members, and are somewhat less likely than others to be travelling with adult friends. In this section, we're going
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prashma, who's just joined us from CHR Travel, and I'm expecting another gentleman to join us any second from G2. We've had one or two technical difficulties linking with India, but this is very good of you. That was a very interesting presentation as ever from David Edwards. I think it revealed very clearly that India is a growing market, this we know. It's defined by the largest population of any country on earth, and it is unlike nearly all the other principal Asian markets. It is not aging. It is still a very youthful market, and this is revealed by David's point. I think when we look at our other origin markets, such as China and Japan and Korea, and even North America, we're looking at a market where our target group is very much moving over 55 to the 60 to 65 bracket, which some of us regard as the prime of life. But it's important to understand that this is a different demographic in India, which we will explore maybe at a later stage. Now, I would just ask Paramjit, PB as we know him, to introduce himself, and then I'll ask Sharma to introduce herself, and then we'll get the discussion going. One thing I will do before we start this is ask everyone, please, 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 post as many questions as you can in the Q&A. I know we have over 200 people registered for this event, but there are 90 of you out there at the moment, and it would be great to hear any questions you've got, because it helps us make the thing flow. Okay, Paramjit, please, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for making it to this webinar today, and thank you to ETOA for giving me this opportunity to be part of it. As Tom mentioned, my name is Paramjit, but everybody knows me as PB because it's much easier on the tongue. I have been in the industry for a couple of decades now, coming up to almost 3 decades, and I've had previous stints in various tourism boards, including Visit Britain. I set up my own tourism consultancy and advisory agency called Auxilia Networks just after lockdown ended, because I saw a gap in the market for specialist advisory services for companies who were looking to do business in India or wanting to increase their business in the India market, but needed some local expertise about how to go about it. Because it's a complicated market, it's an unregulated market largely, and it needs insider information about who to deal with, who not to deal with, what works, what doesn't. And it's a different market in different regions of India as you travel from one part to another. So, we set up, and we now work with clients across the UK, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. We started working with ETOA in the early part of this year, I think it was, and we are helping them to roll out their India program. We are helping them with their participation at the Outbound Travel Mart in Mumbai early next year. We're helping them to accumulate quality long-haul buyer members from this part of the world. So we have a few specific remits, and we're really privileged to be chosen as their preferential partners for this market. I think that would be a fair summary, Tom.
Oh, it's a very fair summary. Christina, very good that you can join us. And Charlotte, do introduce yourselves and just explain what it is that CHR do.
Hi, my name is Christina Piekny. I work for CHR Travel. This is Reshma.
Hello.
Together, we are dealing mainly with the Indian market. So CHR, as you know, has been around for quite a long time. I've been in the industry for the last 30 years. This is actually my 30-year anniversary. I know. We do incoming into Europe from India, mainly series as well as mice groups. As you know, we work with most of the clients. Our main markets are in Mumbai, but we work with markets across India. Reshma is our my specialist from India. Yeah, pretty much that's what we do. You know.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, Samir, can you hear me? You have both your camera and microphone turned off.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, hi. Great. So I'm working with G2 for last 3 years. Before that, I'm in this travel industry for 15 years now. But with G2, I'm only there for 3 years. So basically, we deal with agents in Mumbai, and this is what my introduction will be.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's it. So we basically got CHR, who are almost the specialist DMC based just north of London in Saffron Walden or near Saffron Walden. And Samir, we have you who are representing quite a large, I think I can say, wholesaler that sells Europe globally. But you're clearly expanding into India. Can I just
Yes.
start off with an obvious question, and I'll ask PB the question to start off with, which is where are the main markets concentrated in India? Because it's obviously a subcontinent. It's got a population greater than that of China. It's not going to be evenly spread or concentrated in one area. So if you're wanting to sell Europe in India, where should you look to do so? PB.
Thank you, Tom. The two biggest markets obviously are Delhi and Mumbai. Delhi in the north, Mumbai in the west, with a big chunk of the big wholesalers and the important OTAs concentrated there. So anyone coming into this market would naturally think that those are the two places that they would want to target first. I have a slightly different take on this. You can see this in different ways depending on what your business segment is. But in the last 15 years, take the 3 years of COVID away, we've seen massive growth in disposable incomes and salaries and business revenue from India's tier two cities. The tier two cities are, if you take away Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, and possibly Calcutta. And then you come into the tier two cities, and these are cities spread across the whole of India. There is a huge amount of demand coming out of these cities. There are people who have more money to spend, people who are more aware about global destinations and attractions and experiences, and they want to, experience all those things for themselves. So they want to travel. And I believe if given everything is normal, there are no disruptions like we've had with COVID, in the next 10 or 15 years, we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. And this is where the tier two market is where the growth of outbound from this country is going to be driven. Because Delhi and Mumbai are already at a very high base. Their agents who are there are already quite well aware and educated about global product and global destinations. The agents in the tier two markets and their customers are hungry for more information. They're curious. They have a propensity to travel and they have a propensity to spend. So I think anyone who doesn't focus on the tier two markets across India is missing a trick. I've always been very focused for my clients on these markets.
Samir, do you share that opinion?
Yes, I agree with PB. Like the demand is rising from tier 2 cities like Pune, Ahmedabad, Chandigarh, and Kochi, which clearly indicates that European travel is no longer an elite metro phenomena. I mean, this is quite encouraging, and it is an obvious fact that there is a tremendous marketing opportunity to target these cities to get the outbound business to Europe.
And the one thing we didn't concentrate on, I know, is the airlift. But are you getting the airlift from these tier two cities? I mean, or do they have to connect through, the main hubs of Mumbai, Delhi, and Calcutta?
Sorry?
I
Hello?
was just interested in what the airlift was looking like from the tier two cities. I mean, PB and yourself have said all the growth, or a lot of the growth, is in the tier two cities. Can they get out of there into Europe very easily? Is the question.
Yeah, I can step in here and say things have changed a lot, Tom. In the
Yeah.
last few years, we've seen a lot of especially the Middle Eastern carriers and the Southeast Asian carriers, who also, by the way, connect into Europe. Although to fly with those from here, you'll have to go the other way for a little bit and then go up north again. But there are a lot of these carriers from the Middle East and the Southeast Asian countries who now operate very regularly in the tier two cities. And a lot of them are doing 2 flights a day from some of the tier two cities as well. And then you have domestic carriers like Air India and Indigo. Now, Indigo started as a low cost carrier, but they have expanded into long haul and into Europe. And some of those flights are going direct, and some of them are going with code shares with other European airlines. And they are all connecting into the domestic. Indigo and Air India together have a really vast domestic network. So the hub and spoke model works really well for them. And so it's no longer necessary for a tier two person to travel to Delhi or Mumbai to catch a flight to Europe. It's quite common now. It's easier now to connect from where they are.
Good, good. Christina, I mean, you're obviously sitting over in England, but uh, is there any particular region of India that you seem to be sourcing your clients from, or is it very widespread?
Our majority of clients come from Delhi and Mumbai, but like my colleagues have said, it's changing now. India is changing massively. Over the last years, we have seen a lot of business coming from what you call tier 2, tier 3 cities. I think Mumbai, like my colleagues have said, it's been obviously always one of the biggest hubs, Mumbai and Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai. Whereas now we see business coming, like my colleague said, from Pune, which is not far from Mumbai, but there wasn't a lot of business coming out from there. Now it does. Our sales representatives in India are bringing business from honestly places that we have not heard of. Even though we know India quite well, there are places in India which we are not familiar with, but there is good business coming from those tier 2, tier 3 cities. And you were very right to ask the question about how is it to reach Europe, but yes, it's absolutely true. Now we see a much easier way of coming to Europe from everywhere across India. They have a network. Even when we go to India, we can be anywhere, anytime. You have a flight that takes you almost anywhere. And if you don't have the flight, you have the train. So the changes that we see within the country are massive. It's like, every year that I go to India, I go and I'm absolutely amazed about the economic growth of the country. Now, when there is economic growth, there is obviously people are earning better and the world is opening to them.
I think that's beautifully put. I think I think having concentrated on where people are and how people can get here, I think we might just spend a minute looking at the barriers. And the chief barrier, I would think, we might all agree on. Maybe we should find something we don't agree on, but I imagine one of them is going to be visas. And I'd have thought that uh, is this a real problem, trying to get visas for Europe? And I suppose the question is, we know it's a problem. Are there any countries which are particularly good at processing visas? Would be one question. And I suppose the next question is, what would business be like if there was no visa for Europe or for the UK? Samir, can I start with you? Are there any particularly good examples of visas? And what would business be like if we didn't have any visa regime between India and Europe?
Yeah, I mean, while the visa demand is rising, rejections, long processing time of visas, and even getting appointments for the visa are still a bottleneck. I mean, I feel there is still an issue with the getting an appointment for the visas.
And what would business be like if there wasn't a visa?
It would have been really smooth. I mean, visa is one of the barrier which can stop travelers from traveling abroad. So, I mean, if there are no visas, definitely it will be a smooth experience for the passengers to travel.
I mean,
Tom, if I may just add a little bit here,
yeah,
to put things
PB.
in a little bit of perspective here. So there are some countries which in Europe, inside and outside the Schengen regime, some are quite good. Some have understood what the requirements of the Indian traveler for the visas are, and some are not that good and still taking a long time, have high rejection rates. But the thing to notice here is, well, one thing I want to come back to is this topic about the tier two markets. So earlier, with countries that required biometrics or in-person interviews, this was another big problem. People from tier two cities would have to travel to Delhi or Mumbai or Calcutta or Chennai to do those things. Now, a lot of the visa facilitation companies like VFS and others, they go into the tier two markets with their technology and their equipment to do the biometrics and all of that. So they actually set up camps in the tier two cities from time to time. So even that has improved a lot now for these secondary markets. I'm going to come back to your point about how would business be if there were no visas. So we've seen in the past, in the case of certain markets where there used to be visas and then they suddenly started allowing Indians to come to their markets visa free. So just to give you two examples off the top of my head, Georgia, at one point of time, the Maldives, we saw exponential jumps in the numbers going there. What people need to realize about this Indian market is that it's a very last minute market. We make decisions to travel within a couple of weeks before going. Sometimes up to as short as 2 weeks. Obviously, there are people who plan in advance, but the average is not a very long window. And if I'm a client and I want to take a trip in the next 2 weeks, and I go to my travel agent and say I want to go here, he might say to me, "Look, I can't guarantee that you'll get a visa in that shorter time. Why don't you go somewhere where you can go in 2 weeks?" And so the decision to travel, the destination decision gets changed only because of the visa. Everything else is fine with the destination, but they can't get the visa in the time frame that they want to travel. So they end up going somewhere where they can. So these are some of the factors that are playing on the visa front.
Oh, thank you. And Christina, do you see operational problems caused by people not getting visas, or do you see demand being affected by the ease of visa? Is this an
Yes.
issue for you? Yes, I imagine
Yes,
it is.
we do. And what we've noticed over the years is that every year there is a new consulate that does better than the previous year. So most of our cities, as you know, visa was obtained from the Swiss consulate, which was always understood what this market means for their country. So I would say Switzerland was one of the countries that really wanted to do business with India. They've done facilities, they've done a lot to get the travelers in. And it did work fantastically well. Obviously, post-COVID, there were, ups and downs when the staff was less, but then it went all right. UK this year has been all right up to a point. However, from June onwards, we have seen something that is a very odd situation. So I'm talking mostly now not about the cities travels, but mostly MICE. Now, as you know, Tom, MICE groups are very different because the company guarantees your travel, pays for you, pays for everything. We have had situations when a group was, say, 450 people. Out of 450 people, will always take about 2% not getting the visas. Now we are seeing a 10%, we are seeing a 15% of people not getting visas. However, reapplying and paying a higher cost doesn't guarantee you the visa, but we have seen visas issued after reapplication. The reapplication is with the same documents, it's not something different. It's the same passenger traveling with the same income, with the same documents. Now, everyone from India, we had last month a group traveling where how many were initially 180 and 130 got visas. Now we have never seen this before, not this huge amount of people not getting visas to travel, and we were asked by our agent what is happening. I know that in India, some of the agents have made like a petition to some, especially to the UK High Commissioner regarding this. We don't understand what is happening, but is affecting the business. Now, you are aware that when it comes closer to the arrival date, there is a lot of implications, cancellation charges, this, that. It will affect the number of people that come and spend money into our countries, correct?
Well, I don't disagree for 1 minute. I think it's a real issue, and it's something that I've noticed that you were saying that Switzerland has for a long time prioritized the efficiency with which they issue visas. And my understanding is, and I defer to Samir here, but my understanding is that one of the top countries for single country vacations is going to be Switzerland and India. Is this the case, Samir? I mean, do you see almost visa-related holidays going to Switzerland?
Yes, I mean, yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. You don't have to say any more. It was an open thing, but
John, sorry to interrupt.
Please go ahead.
We have heard. I don't know if it's a rumor or I only just came to know about this on Saturday from one of our agents. That Switzerland is also changing the way they will process visas for next year, especially for cities groups travel. Which I need to obviously get the information right, but what we've been told is that now they will require like the other embassies, like the France and Italy, they require all the name lists to be sent to them by the hotels that are booked for the tour. I know. So say you are applying for a group for June in March, we as DMCs will have to have the rooming list sent to that said hotel, which I think that would be extremely difficult.
No, it's
Extremely difficult. So it's an unverified rumor that I've heard, but I don't know if my colleagues who are actually based in India know anything about it.
Samir, have you heard about this?
I am from actually operations team, so I have not heard about this visa process for
Okay.
Switzerland.
I think we'll enjoy raising this with Switzerland, Christina. It's the sort of thing we enjoy doing. Don't worry, this is fun. Now, I think. Sorry, PB, are you about to say something or no?
No,
No.
this was this was what we, as I said, we heard. But in reply to you, whether there will not be no visa, how the business will be, obviously it will be booming. But we are aware that that's not going to happen. Visas will have to be a requirement. What we are asking is that the appointments for the visas, especially India has their peak times. If those travelers don't travel during the peak times, they are not going to travel in December. They are not going to travel in November. There is a reason why everyone travels in India. The peak is during April, May, and June because of the holidays, because of the school holidays, because, there are, you are not going to have the same passengers traveling later on in the year. You will have other passengers, but not the same. That's my personal opinion. I might be wrong. Samir?
Okay. No. I'm very keen to get onto the questions that people posted. Now, some people very kindly posted some questions before we started off, and I know we've got 4 or 5 questions posted while we're in discussions. But I think one of them was really wondering what demand. I mean, actually, it springs straight from our visa discussion. I'm wondering what demand for this is niche, but what demand for Albania and Bulgaria is like in India. You might note that both Bulgaria, I believe, is outside the Schengen area, but joining it, and Albania actually has a visa-free offer, I believe, to India. It certainly does to China. PB, do you want to start off?
Yeah, you're right. I think Albania, as far as I know, is visa free for Indians. The problem is not how how popular the destination is, or how popular the destination could be. It's a European destination. People will want to go. Bulgaria is a country with a lot of history, a lot of culture. The problem is more with these kind of destinations is more knowledge, Tom. It's more awareness about what there is to see, what there is to do, how to get there. And I think the shortest route to market for these destinations is through the trade, to be honest, because if you educate the trade about the destination and what it can offer and how to get there and what kind of hotels and experiences and other things, the trade will then sell it to their clients. I mean, obviously the visa situation is something that moves in parallel on one other track, but destination knowledge and destination awareness is more an issue than popularity. I mean, I don't think if you put the equal number of levels of knowledge for Austria, Hungary, Bulgaria, Poland, at the same level, I think they will all have good demand. They'll all have more or less equal demand. It's just how popular and how much knowledge people have about these destinations.
Would you agree with that, Samir? It's just a question of educating, both the trade and the people they're catering to.
Yes, I agree with PB on this point.
No. Well, that's
I think
excellent.
I think the tourism boards for these destinations, if they really want to see numbers pick up from India, they need to start doing stuff in India. So we've not heard of anything being done by the Bulgarian tourism board, for example, as opposed to the Austrian tourism board or the Hungarian tourism board. They are doing stuff from time to time. So they are keeping themselves on the radar. But if you want to get numbers, you've got to get your destination out there. It's a question of marketing.
No, I see. Christina, do you have a perspective on this?
I fully agree. I think that educating the travel agents and the tour operators in India about the newest destinations in Europe is paramount. And BP is absolutely right. The tourist boards are of the newest Schengen countries are now Bulgaria and Romania. I have not seen anything that the tourist boards of these two countries have done in order to promote their countries to the Indian public. And this is something that I'm personally really interested in, because first of all, I was born in Romania, so I have an interest in promoting Romania as a country, and Bulgaria, being a neighboring country, is a connection to Romania. I have personally spoken to some people from the Romanian tourist board. Romania doesn't have a tourist board in London, but I know some of the people who used to be there. I asked why are you not promoting yourself? And I have to be honest with you, Tom, there is a little bit of arrogance in some of the Eastern European countries, because they think that they have the number of passengers that they need, which I totally disagree. And I have spoken to some hoteliers, because you have the tourist boards, which are mostly not interested, but then you have the businesses which understand slowly that they are missing on a market that brings a huge income into Europe. India is bringing a lot of money into Europe through the travelers, and I think there is, a country that should be shown that that passengers should be shown the respect that they deserve by bringing so much money into European countries. I'm talking about Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Scandinavia. It doesn't matter. When you look at the turnovers the Indians are providing, they are one of the top clients. And when we see, like this year, obviously you have seen a drop in other markets, India still came up quite strong. So we have
they were the first to come back after COVID. You're quite right.
Exactly.
Right.
So, we try our best with the resources that we have as a DMC to, go and push through the doors of the people that seem to be very, laid back. But as I said, I spoke to some businesses from Romania and Bulgaria, and they both showed interest, because they do understand that they can work with this market. But we are going back to the situation of the visas, where the high commissioners of these countries don't seem to understand how it works. I mean, I've seen some requirements from the Romanian consulate which are absolutely ridiculous. So,
okay.
yeah.
I want to get on. We can slide off into indignation about the behavior of tourist boards and tourist offices and marketing funds, and we'll get lost. I want to know very quickly. Actually, while we've got Rashma here, I know you deal with the mice market from India. What an interesting market from a trade point of view. Am I right in thinking that the mice operators in India operate on a different basis to the ones in Europe and North America? Are they looking for net rates from the DMCs in
Yes.
Europe? They are looking for net rates.
Yes.
How interesting. That's very interesting. And do you find hotels are happy to give you net rates for mice groups? They like the group, yeah. If they want the group,
They do. I mean, the numbers from India are huge. You're looking at like 400, 500, 800 is the largest that we have done. So those numbers are pretty huge. So yes, hotels do agree to give them what they want. And
Good.
MICE is a very upcoming market. They do different things. And again, it's Indian market. So it's not like they're just going to sit in the hotel and do conferences, maybe one day of a conference or one day of an evening, but they are the people who go out, they see a lot of things, they do different activities. Like this year, we have had people doing skydiving and zip lining and drifting of the cars and all that. So demand is quite a lot from these markets. And Tom, you also need to understand in India, there is a saying which says that jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai, which means what you see is what sells. So coming back to the earlier question, if you show them it's there, they will come and do it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. That's very well put. Samir, are you processing a lot of mice business?
Mice, we hardly do any mice business as of now from Mumbai.
Okay. All right. So you're mainly concentrating on, well, originally on groups, but you're starting to do FIT work as well. Paramjit, are you seeing mice as a growing sector coming out of India?
100%, Tom. It's a fast growing segment, and very importantly, people should know that after lockdown ended, the segment which showed the quickest bounce back from India was the MICE segment. The corporates started moving almost immediately to destinations overseas in whatever numbers they could afford to send. But it was the first segment to show recovery after lockdown ended in India. So it is but the other side of the coin is, Tom, that it's become a very competitive market. It's a lot of players in the market, a lot of DMCs now offering services in destinations for specifically for MICE. And the number of corporates who do the big MICE groups to long haul destinations is actually it's not in the thousands. So it's the same business that a lot of people and more people are beginning to compete for. And so it's becoming quite competitive. I would almost use the term cutthroat, to be honest, in some markets. So it's becoming a difficult segment to work in and to make money in, but there is a massive potential. There's a lot of movement. And Europe is, especially in seasons when it's not that cold, it's a very popular destination for mice.
Right. I'm just very conscious of the fact that we've got now loads of questions and we've got very little time to answer them. So it's almost what is the scope for educational travel? Is the question. They're very interested in seeing, some of these people are very interested in seeing what can be offered to undergraduates participating in study abroad just for a term or even a vacation. Is this something that you see any scope for? Samir, do you do much educational travel?
Yes, I mean we have seen an increase in demand for school tours, wanting to visit the elite universities based in UK, France, Italy. So yes, we have seen a lot of growth. I mean, we have receiving a lot of requests for school tours, traveling to Europe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm actually going to ask Paramjit another country. Which other Schengen or non-Schengen European country are as friendly as Switzerland towards visas for Indian travelers? Have you got have we got a list of who are the friendliest? We don't need to know the least friendly. I'm just wondering who's top of the hit parade. I'll ask Christina when you've finished, PB.
You're putting me out on a limb here, Tom. I think the best people to answer this are the travel agents, the outbound tour operators themselves. But from what I know, I think France has been consistently good with their visa processes. They're quick with their processing times. I think a lot of the tour operators will agree with me. And their rejection rates are relatively lower. The UK has improved their visa processes quite considerably, so they're doing quite well. There are some countries who could do better. I don't think I want to name them because I run the risk of being not invited.
Well, we're not here to be rude. We're here to praise people, not be nasty. Okay, France is one example we can risk. Christina, can you think of anywhere that's particularly good other than France, the UK, in brackets with an exclamation mark, and Switzerland?
Yeah, I would say UK has not been bad. I mean, we have a lot of tours starting in UK, and to be honest with you, as I said, there's been a bit of a bump in the road this year, starting like June, July time. But prior to that, most of the time, I saw that everything went smooth, and the agents have a lot of tours that start in UK, which tells me that they find UK as a good place to apply for their visas. Obviously, requirements are as they are, but we have seen this. I will go and name a country that we find that is quite difficult because of the requirements that we get when there is an application of visas to that particular country. And that is mostly to do with the amount of paperwork that country requires, which is Italy. Italians are known for wanting a lot of paperwork. And we have seen from Italy a lot of requirements, like, you know, some are a little bit, you know, quite out of order. Obviously, Switzerland seems to be good. I don't think our agents apply to many other consulates. It's especially on the series groups, Tom, is where you enter and where you stay the longest.
Yeah.
So the longest during the tours are either Switzerland or I would say Italy, because these are the countries with the most days.
I think I'm just very conscious we've got about 5 questions to answer and 5 minutes to do so. Samir, I'm just interested in your perspective because you're obviously a big group operator coming out of India, and the question here is just saying, you know, is the market evolving away from group travel or towards group travel? Because are people taking smaller groups, or are they? And you know, what is the FIT market like? Is there big growth in the FIT market?
FIT
What's the
market,
shape of the market, basically, Samir?
no, FIT markets, again, we are not handling much FIT markets from here in Mumbai.
Yeah.
So I won't be able to comment on that point.
Okay. All right. I mean,
I could pitch in
PB,
here, Tom.
what's the current thinking on this?
If you allow me to pitch in, I'll just say that the growth of both groups in FIT segments is good. However, the gradient of the FIT growth is steeper. So it is growing. And as the market matures and people become repeat travelers from first-time travelers, you'll see obviously the FIT segment will keep growing. And part of this is back to that point we made earlier about the tier 2 cities. A lot of the tier 2 cities are generating traffic in the FIT segment. More than the group segment. So both are growing, but the FIT segment is growing faster. But just coming back just very briefly to that point about the UK, they've done well with their visa. They've improved their processes, but obviously it doesn't help that they're not part of Schengen. So any group or any travel entity that wants to do multi-country travel, including the UK, they have to apply for 2 different visas, and that's 2 different costs and 2 different processes with paperwork. So that doesn't help. But just the process itself, the UK is doing quite well.
Thank you so much. Now we've got one question, which is one of the questions we get every time we do an origin market, which is how can we get hold of our ideal customer? And an ideal customer for every destination and for every operator is someone who's extremely rich and doesn't mind spending large sums of money on things that people would normally be reluctant to spend large sums of money. So we've got a question here which says, you know, where are the really the high net worth where are the high net worth individuals in India? Is there a particular area where they're concentrated? Is there a specific area where I can put my fishing line in and it's full of very big fish? Is the question. BB, is there anywhere that you could think of?
No, Tom, this is a wrong way of approaching things right now in India. The high net worth spenders are everywhere. You'll find them in tier 3 cities. They've got loads of money to spend. They'll stay in the best hotels, They'll want the best experiences. They're not just coming from any one place. You need to focus across India. This is India has a lot of variations when you travel from one region to another. Lots of things change. But one thing is constant is that the high net worth traveler is not restricted to any one part of India anymore. They're everywhere. They're coming out of every city.
Samir, do you share this perception?
Yes, I agree. I agree with PV. I mean, there are clients who are ready to spend, and they are not only based in the metro cities, but from small cities of India like Tier 2 and Tier 3.
Okay, thank you. Christina, you don't have any hot tips for picking up rich customers, do you?
I would like to answer that.
Yes,
I used
okay.
to head the FIT in Thomas Cook India before I came to UK.
Oh.
So I agree with PB. The growth is, I mean, the FIT clients are everywhere. I've had people coming from absolutely tier 3 cities and all who had loads of money, did not know what they could do. And then comes in the tour operator who says, oh, you know what? Okay, this is what you can do. And these are the people who will stay in the best of hotels. They will stay in the 5-star hotels. They will have like vehicles at disposal for them. They do everything. You just tell them, you just show them that it is there. And I agree, it comes from every market, not just the tier 1 markets, because tier 1 again is a more evolved traveler. They will probably be more picky, go to tier 2 and tier 3 markets, and they'll probably be much more nicer to you. And they will they will rely on you to tell them what needs to be done.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Samir, for joining us all the way from India. PB also for joining us, and Christina and Shravan, joining us as well. So I'm really grateful to all of you. I would just remind everyone that in February we're going to be at the Outbound Travel Market, or OTM Mumbai. And the whole of February is devoted to India as an origin market. And we'll be having many more webinars such as the one here, because there's so much we could have touched on and we failed to do so. But I know we will be seeing more from PB. And thank you very much to my fellow deliverers of this webinar. And thank you, the audience, for attending too. And with that note, I'm going to leave you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.